Okay, today we're going to take a look at how what we know about fractions can help us understand decimals. Part of this is base 10 numeration, which is the common system of writing whole numbers and decimal fractions using 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in the place values that are all powers of 10. For example, 5,620 and 301 thousandths would equal 5 in the thousandths place, so that'd be 5,000, plus 600, plus 20, plus 0 in the ones, plus 3 over 10, plus 0 over 10, plus 1 over 1,000. This would be how we would show this as powers of 10, each place value being split. So let's take a look at what we are going to be doing today. First off, we see decimals every day, and decimals are nothing more than a place valued fraction. We've taken a fraction and written it in terms of base 10 numeration rather than in fraction form. So things like 98.6, 98.6 would equal 98 and 6/10 because this 6 is in the tenths column, and so that would be 6/10. So these are the same number. Vice versa, if we took a number like 7 and 1/10, we could say that that would be 7.1 because we would want a 1 in the tenths place. All right, so moving on. Ooh, got some writing on here from the last time I was teaching this lesson. Okay. Let's go to this whole thing about base 10 numeration. Base 10 is simply how we write our numbers in the United States. They're all multiples of 10. Each place value part is based on 10. So if you remember back from elementary, we had like the hundreds, and then you had tens, and then you had ones, and then we'd put our decimal, and you'd have the tenths, the hundredths, and so on. So these can go, and I'm going to change hundredths to say 100, but these could go on forever in both directions, and they are powers of 10. Okay, so, and they each equate to a decimal. So let's take a look at these small sides. So if we had the fraction 1/10, that is the decimal 1/10. If we have a fraction of 1/100th, that's the fraction. So each time we go on, we are adding a decimal to the front of our 0 between the 0 and between the decimal and the 1, and thus making it go over a place value. So 1/100th over here, this would be the ones, the tenths, and the hundredths. So there's a 1 in the 100th, that'd be 1/100th. So moving forward, we are going to look at a fraction strip, kind of like the ones we did back a few investigations ago. What we have here is a 10th strip, okay, and we need to think about how we could make that 10th strip into a 100th strip. So essentially what we're doing is we are going to be taking each one of these tenths and cutting it into 10 equal pieces, which is a little kind of hard to do with my marker size here. But you'd be taking this part right here and cutting it into 10 pieces, because 10 times 10 would be 100. So therefore, if we had 10 tenths, we would have 100ths. Okay, so the next thing would be, how would we label each part of this new fraction strip, which if we divided these into 10 equal pieces, we would have each part would be a 100th. We can also take this and look at grids and see that if we had a square, a box cut into tenths, that we cut into tenths horizontally, that we would now have 100 boxes, 10 by 10. Okay, this is often referred to as a hundreds grid or hundreds chart. So one of these, so 1/10 here, is going to be the equivalent, and I'll color it over here on the other side, of 10 hundredths. Okay, and 100th would be just this little tiny box. It'd be 1/10 of 1/10. All right, so moving forward, we can represent decimal numbers and fractions using, there are two ways of writing the same number. So the fraction 5/10 would equal the decimal of 5 in the tenths place. And then if we colored it in on a hundredths grid, we'd color in 5 columns of 10, which would be 50 hundredths. Okay, so this would be 50 little boxes, 50 hundredths, or it would be 5 if we just counted each strip like this. So it'd be 5/10 like that. Okay, same thing, 20 hundredths would equal 0.2 or 0.20, depends on what you're talking about. We refer to that as point or decimal 20. But if we only have a 2 in the tenths, that would be 2 this way. Okay, see how there's 2/10 there? And we could add a 0 after it and get 20 hundredths because that was our fraction, but really it's the same as 2/10. We kind of write that in lowest form, even if we write it as a decimal. So let's take a look and practice a few of these. Okay, if I had the fraction 20 hundredths, I would have the decimal 0.2. If I had 20 right here, this decimal would be a 2 in the tenths place, so 2/10 and 0 hundredths. So that would actually give me 20 hundredths. So I could have the fraction 20 over 100 here, or I could write the fraction, because this 0 doesn't really matter, I could write the fraction 2 over 10. All right, so let's take a look at this next one. 250 over 1,000, so that's 250 thousandths. Well, that would mean a 2 in the tenths, a 5 in the hundredths, and a 0 in the thousandths. Okay, and we named decimals and fractions according to their place value. So decimals are named for their place value too. All right, so let's keep going forward now. We're going to take a look at a lasagna pan. Okay, and this problem, Wendy's mother, Ann, is making lasagna to celebrate her birthday. She makes lasagna in an enormous 20-inch by 20-inch square pan. Okay, so Ann is going to share this lasagna with family, friends, and coworkers, neighbors, blah, 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 blah. She's going to cut it into 10 equal pieces. So we're going to take and divide this up into tenths. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and wish my lines were straight, but there would be 10. Whoops, I only need 9. So I'll go back and get rid of that last line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal pieces. We're going to pretend they're equal even though they aren't equal on my drawing. And then she would cut it in 10 this way. So 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so she's overlaid that grid. Now, I know this is not drawn is not very precise, but if we had 20 inches here and 20 inches along this side, and we've cut them into 10 parts, then each piece coming up the side is 2 inches a piece times 10, and this also would be 2 inches times 10. So one piece would be a square that is 2 inches by 2 inches. Okay, so now that we've got that established, let's sit here and think about these problems. Ann gave 1 pan of lasagna to her 10 coworkers. If the coworkers, so there's 10 people, if the coworkers share it equally, how many servings will each coworker get? Now remember that 1 piece is equal to 1 serving. So this little 2-inch by 2-inch square is 1 serving. Okay, so if there were 100 people, each person would get 1. We now have 10 people equally sharing this lasagna, so we're going to think about it. So each person, for A1, each equals 1/10 of the pan. Whoops, we'll go back for a second. I'm skipping ahead to the second part of the question. So each person would get our first thing, how many servings would get, each person gets 10 servings. Okay, and write each person's share as a fractional and decimal part of a pan. So if they get 10 servings, which means they get one whole row or column of lasagna, sounds funny, then as a fraction, they get 1/10 of the pan. Okay, they could also have 0.1, or if we wanted to take it in terms of the hundredths, we could say that they got 10 hundredths, or 0.10, or 10 hundredths this way. Okay, now because we like to reduce our fractions and keep them in simplest form, and we do the same thing with decimals, we really would use the 1/10 or 0.1. Now, if Anne's pan is 20 by 20, describe each coworker's share of the lasagna. Well, remember up here I said that each person had a 2 by 2 inch square. If there were 100 people, each person would get that. Well, so this would be, they would get a strip of lasagna. Okay, so if I take that out, they would get a strip of lasagna that would be 2 inches this way and 20 inches that way. And so they'd have one piece, piece that is 20 or 2 inches by 20 inches in their dimensions, which would be the same thing as 40 square inches of lasagna. And I know that's a little weird thinking of a lasagna in terms of area, but that's kind of what they're doing here to represent this. So that's 40 square inches. So they're getting a piece that is 20 inches by 2 inches, and that gives us our 40 square inches. All right, so before you come to class tomorrow, what I would like for you to do is to complete problem, this is 3.3. Do not complete any problem before coming to class today. Just make sure that you understand this whole lasagna concept, because we will be using the lasagna pan down here in B, and be talking about each person's servings and writing those as decimals and fractions. All right.